What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. This is Easy Paradox, and we're here with another playoff scenario video. So we're going to start this video off with the craziest scenario that no one wants, but it's like, it could happen. It literally is possible based on the numbers that are presented to us with these teams. It's two SEC teams, two Big Ten teams, and you're probably asking yourself, how the heck did we get to that point? How do we get to that when we have such a competitive conference champions right now? There's undefeated Washington, there's undefeated Florida State, one loss Texas, and then one loss Louisville. So I was in the lab. No, I wasn't in the lab. Don't get it twisted. There was a scenario that I was reading on ESPN that talked about the potentials for this. So what needs to happen is Ohio State and Michigan need to win out, prospectively. So they need to be 11-1 when they face each other. Michigan needs to beat Ohio State because Michigan does not have a good non-conference record. So then Michigan needs to win the Big Ten against Iowa. Ohio State needs to stay at one loss, 11-1. They have that win against Notre Dame. They have that win against Penn State. Really good wins. So then we have 1x1 Ohio State, undefeated Michigan. That's why Michigan's at number 1. Then the SEC, Alabama needs to win the SEC title game. So then Georgia's one loss, Alabama's one loss. Then in the Pac-12, it needs to get crazy. Oregon State needs to beat Oregon. So what needed to happen was Oregon State lose to Washington and then beat Oregon. So then if Oregon loses to Oregon State, Arizona then jumps into the Pac-12 championship game because they have the tiebreakers needed. Then it would be Washington against Arizona. Arizona needs to upset Washington. Then Washington would be a one-loss, not conference champion. Then Ohio State has a better record than Washington. They just have overall better wins. And then they lost to Arizona, the 3-loss Arizona. Florida State then needs to lose to Louisville, but Louisville needs to lose their last game. So then it'll be a 2-loss Louisville beating Florida State in the ACC title game. And in the Big 12, Texas just needs to lose to some random team in the Big 12 championship game. Just lose to any of them. There's 3 potentials. They just need to lose. Just lose, and then they'll have 2 losses, and they're out. So then the playoff committee will then have to go through and go Washington, Florida State, Georgia, and Ohio State. Which ones should get in? Georgia essentially would lose to Alabama in a close one. These games that they play against each other has to be close. Ohio State has to lose to Michigan by nothing because it shows that they are still a very competitive team. It would be similar to when they got in with the one loss, not conference championship game where they had a good track record. They barely lost to Michigan, etc. So then there'll be 2 SEC teams, 2 Big Ten teams, and it would look something like this. Moving on. So what we're going to be talking about is which teams are going to have a chance to make the playoffs, and this shows also their conference championships. Louisville, Florida State, locked in. Boom. Everyone gives Louisville crap. They were just talking crap about Louisville all week, telling they're going to lose to Miami, blah, blah, blah. They're not going to be able to compete. Miami's going to win at home. There's all this nonsense. Louisville came out on top. That's all needed to happen. Louisville goes in next week. They're probably going to win. That last scenario, I don't want to happen. So Louisville's going to win next week. They're going to be one loss going into the Florida championship game. Florida State should win. There should not be any confusion. Florida State they were down 13-0 against South Alabama in the first quarter. It was a little scary there, but then South Alabama, for some reason, just decided to stop playing football. It almost looked like it was scripted there, but, we're not going to talk about those weird, crazy theories. Next, the most important one here is the Big 12, because Texas is holding Alabama back because they have the head-to-head. Head-to-head isn't everything, and it's very rare they jump them because, Notre Dame, Cincinnati, when Cincinnati was number 4, Cincinnati was held that record of we beat you, and we're going to go in, which kind of sucked for Notre Dame, but it's what it is. So we have Texas at 9-1, and then we have these 3 potential teams: Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Kansas State. Oklahoma has a better record than all of them, but they all tied in conference. Oklahoma State had a narrow win against Houston, and Oklahoma had a narrow win against BYU, and Kansas State had a close one against Kansas, but they came out on top. So all of these guys are still tied with 2 losses in the Big 12. There was a Trojan horse in here, Iowa State. Iowa State, if they won out, they could have gone to the Big 12 championship. They would have beat Texas, but they had a huge hard schedule. They had to beat Texas, then they play against Kansas State. It was this whole thing. It was this huge scenario. It was crazy, but Iowa State just barely lost last night against Texas, thus creating Texas still number 1. Texas still has to win out if they even want to smell the national title game. And then Alabama really needs Texas to lose because Alabama wants to jump. It's kind of like one of those things of like Alabama could be potentially held back. Like if Big Ten were to win out, undefeated Michigan or Ohio State, undefeated Washington, undefeated Florida State, and Texas and Alabama are both one loss and they both won, it will be Texas going to number 4 because of that head-to-head at home in Alabama. It wasn't just and there was no rain. It wasn't crazy. So Alabama needs Texas to lose at any one of these next 2 games that they're going to be playing. And I think holding Alabama out would be very interesting because then Georgia would be 1 loss, Alabama would be 1 loss, and then Texas would hold both of those teams out from them. And there would be no SEC team in the playoff, which would be kind of crazy because it'll be the first year that SEC didn't go. And I'm not a big fan of the SEC. I'm a Big Ten kind of guy. We have the Big Ten. We have 2 undefeated teams here, and then we got the old lone Iowa Hawkeyes there at the bottom, coming out on top last night against Illinois, close one. Michigan had a very good win. It was a close one against Maryland, but they did come out on top. I was rooting for Maryland. I love the underdog story. Maryland was 5-0 at the beginning of the season, and then they went 1-4 since then. So Ohio State 11-0. They had an easy victory against Minnesota. That's what I got predicted like weeks ago. That's crazy scenario, same thing. But I think Ohio State is going to beat Michigan. Michigan, without their coach, is seen to be struggling. They beat Penn State commandingly, but then Maryland, I know Maryland was at home. It was their crazy environment, but Michigan is Michigan, and they need to be blowing out teams because they do not have the record to prove that they're good. Their track record, they have played 1 ranked team, and that is Penn State. Everyone else, trash. Their non-conference, trash. Ohio State at least has a Notre Dame win, which does give them some leeway, and they cannot afford to lose to Iowa in the Big Ten Championship. None of them. If they lose to Iowa in the Big Ten Championship game, none of them are going. Iowa doesn't have any offense. The committee is giving them some love, but they cannot afford to lose to Iowa. I predict that Iowa's going to lose by like 40 like they did years ago, but there is a chance that Iowa could upset in the Big Ten Championship game like they did at Ohio State years ago when they won 50 to like 20-something. So there is a chance. That is super hard to believe because that was what Iowa actually could throw and could run the ball like consistently. Moving on to the Pac-12 with the crazy scenarios here. There was more crazy scenarios, but then other teams lost. So Arizona still has a chance to make the Pac-12 championship game. We kind of discussed it earlier with the Oregon losing to Oregon State. Then Arizona wins out, jumps over the top with their 3 losses, and then they could win. But Washington needs to win out because they do not have the non-conference record. Michigan State is not good, so that's a terrible win. It's a Power 5 win, but it's not like a good win. I think if Oregon State wins out, they have a huge argument. They are number 6. They're like right there on the cusp, sitting there on the outside. If Oregon State were to win out, beat Washington, they would probably go. I think they would probably go over the Big 12. So there is that chance. And then they need 2 of the top 4 right now are from the Big 10. So all that needs to happen is Oregon to win out, then they'll go in. Washington wins out, they go in. Arizona, if they get there and they upset some people, Pac-12 probably be sitting out this one like last year when they when USC lost to Utah, which is unfortunate. Like it's just like is what it is. Arizona then will have the conference championship coming out of nowhere. They started the season off a little rocky. I know they were having a lot of close games, but it was early in the season. Some of these teams are trying to find themselves, find what was within them. Next, we have the SEC. SEC is these 2 teams. Yeah, not much to say about them. They're both locked in. Georgia did have a interesting game against Tennessee for the first 5 minutes when Tennessee got up there 7-0, but then just went off to the races. Alabama had a bye week last week. It was really cool. I got to see all their backups play a JV game. It was a very fun time to watch the South. A lot of Southern teams play JV football for week 11, but we can get into that all day and why is that even allowed and why is the ACC and the SEC do that? But it's just what it is. But that's gonna be it for this video. Please like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. Peace.